And we are live. This is the Wrap It Up on Blast Raps post-game show. As always, my name is Sheldon Alexander, and this episode of Wrap It Up is brought to you by Clean Cuts Barbershop, 2013 Danforth Avenue in the East End of Toronto. Clean Cuts, the multicultural barbers that will always keep you fresh for any and all occasions. So go see Skip and the crew, and as a wise man once said, tell them that I sent ya. Check them out on Instagram at Clean Cuts Toronto or give them a call, 416-917-4833 to book your appointments now. Wrap It Up fans, Raptors fans, how are y'all feeling right now? I think the city's on a wave right now as the Raptors have extended their winning streak, a franchise best winning streak, a Canadian sports best winning streak to 15 games. I'm going to say it again a little louder in the back. 15 game winning streak after a 137-126 victory over the Minnesota Timberwolves. Again, my name is Sheldon Alexander. Thank you guys for tuning in as you do live after each and every Toronto Raptors game to this, the Wrap It Up podcast, live on Twitter, your only Raptors post-game show, live and interactive there is. We're here with you, live on Twitter at Shell Alexander, taking your comments and questions all throughout the show. Same thing goes for Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. Comments and questions there as well, because this is about you people. I want to hear from the fan base. How are we feeling right now watching this team continue their dominance in this run, in this title defense, in their attempt to repeat as NBA champs? I'm so hyped right now, but it's not just me here. I'm here with my guy Q. Q, what's going on? How are you feeling?
I'm good. Just another day at the office for the Raptors, right?
Hold on. You say that. Yep. But I think when we first started talking before the game, right, and also when I left work today, I could say the mood was a little weird in Raptorland, right?
Definitely.
I mean, after winning your last 14 games coming into tonight, we should know by now to not underestimate this squad.
Definitely.
But with that said, you come into this game, Kyle Lowry, you find out, is going to play after missing the last game with whiplash.
Yep.
But as Kyle comes into the lineup, Serge checks out of the lineup as he has the flu. So now you find yourself going against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who basically just revamped their whole entire roster.
Yep.
They got Cat's best friend. D'Angelo Russell's going to make his debut.
Yep.
And
they just put a spanking on the Clippers.
They laid the smacketh down on the Clippers. And now you have this team with their dynamic duo talking pregame about how they got tickets ready for the home debut.
Yep.
Right? They're hype. They're feeling nice. And Cat, who is supposed to be one of the top dudes in the league, at least one of the top bigs in the league, who's mad that he didn't make the All-Star team, is now in a position where there's no Marc Gasol, and we all know about the Gasol flu, right? But there's no Gasol, there's no Serge, and so you're talking about Chris Boucher and Rondae Hollis-Jefferson would be the Raptors bigs, as well with Siakam.
Yeah.
But those are the Raptors bigs in this game. And I can't lie to you, when I saw that the point spread, which is something we talk about sometimes, but not really, but I saw the spread was 8.5 going into this game. I thought, whoa, I don't know. Like, I feel like the Raptors will win the game because they just continue to find ways to win. But I was still a little bit worried about how this game would go. But the thing I did say was if Towns puts up anything less than 30 and 20 in this game, he's sus. And as I pull up the box score,
he didn't get the 30. He didn't get the 20.
The trusty box score,
and a lot of those points and rebounds were garbage minutes.
Karl-Anthony Towns finished with 23 points and 10 rebounds. Okay.
Yep.
Rondae Hollis-Jefferson finished with 21 points and 6 rebounds.
Yep. Did you see the field goals? Attempts and made.
Towns took 13 shots, 5 of 13 for Towns.
Yep.
Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, 8 of 13. That, my friends, is what we call unacceptable.
Yep.
That's terrible.
Yep.
So beyond that, let's flip that because they have their own problems. Screw them, whatever. We're hyped because the Raptors are on a 15-game winning streak. And to me, the beauty of that, I just told you Rondae's stat line. And to me, this is a difference in the game. This is a difference in this Raptors team when you compare them to anyone else in the league. And I'm going to start here. The last game, there's no Kyle Lowry. And you have Terrence Davis and Matt Thomas coming off the bench, filling those guard minutes and putting in mega work.
Yep.
This game, there's no Serge Ibaka.
Nope.
And here comes Rondé Hollis-Jefferson filling the void with those 21 points. How did this team continue to do this night in, night out, next man up? How is this a thing?
It's just, I don't even know. It's getting to the point where it's just unexplainable. Because I was saying, like, remember what I was saying against the second game against Indiana? I was like, this is the game where if you get blown out of your gym, it's okay.
And
right?
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
Then you come into this game, no Serge, nobody in your lineup taller than 6'8". Sorry, Boucher. But Boucher, again, didn't play too many minutes.
Nope, not really.
Right?
Against supposedly one of the best bigs in the league.
Yeah. Who just got his buddy. First game. The first game of the dynamic duo.
Yeah.
Nothing. And he didn't get to go soft flu, but he caught the paint flu. Because he thought he was just going to shoot threes all game.
This team, I just love the way that the bench guys step in and it's next man up, but also the starters come in with a mentality of, okay, one of our guys are down, so we got to pick up the slack. And we've seen this theme before. If you follow this team, you know the resume of Kyle Lowry, where he has his moments where he just says, you know what? I got us tonight. Right? Like he just comes out with that mentality and says, I'm going to push the ball. I'm going to push the pace. I'm going to get everyone involved. The difference this year, I think, is that you're seeing that from Kyle, but you're also seeing him get his scoring numbers up as well at the same time. And if I tell you Kyle Lowry finished with 27 points and 11 assists, I'm more impressed with how the game started because the Raps came out, they hit their first 8 shots, if I'm not mistaken. They got out to a great run, and the problem was really they weren't playing defense, but their offense, he's getting everyone going, and everyone was feeling good early, whether it was Fred, particularly OG, Rondé getting the start, which he's not used to, and of course Pascal. But how key is Kyle Lowry, and how big was it to see him get off to such a good start after missing the last game with whiplash?
Yeah, I think he's got that vet mentality. Like he's the uncle. You know what I mean? Like he's the big uncle, and he just bringing the kids along.
Yeah.
For a nice day at the park. Yeah. You know what I mean? It just he gets them going.
I love the
he's
way
still the leader. Yeah.
I love the way too that he leads the offense. Right, like he's pushing the pace. You saw him throw lead passes to OG. Throw lead passes to Pascal, to Rondé. Like, he's setting the pace of the game. And it's something we talked about Fred doing so well in the last game against the Nets. So you know that it's a system thing, right? Like, no matter what, come in the game, push the pace, force the defense to make plays, push the defense on their heels, and really don't let them get comfortable. And to be honest, if you're the Timberwolves, you came out and you tried to run with the Raps. I mean, it was 40-36 after the first quarter, and they were scoring at such a high clip as well. But at the end of the day, you just don't have the pieces. You don't have we don't believe you. You need more people, right? You can't keep up with the Raptors running because the Raptors are just way deeper than you. Yeah. And when you got Pascal, feeling spicy tonight, 34 points, 5 assists, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block just cuz. How can you beat this team if you're a squad like the Minnesota Timberwolves, basically relying on 2 guys?
You can't, because what happened was the third quarter came around and the Raptors switched it up on them and said, hey, let's play some defense now. Yeah. And Minnesota can't mess with the Raptors when it comes to the defensive side of the ball.
No. Minnesota went from 36 in the first quarter, 39 in the second quarter, to 19 points in that third. Yeah. And you know what the Raptors went in the locker room at halftime and what the focus was, that like, this is unacceptable. We can't be giving up 35 plus points in a quarter, and you come out and give up 19 in that third. And lots of people to talk about in this Raptor game, because obviously when you put up 137, that's one thing. Yeah. But when 4 of your 5 starters are over 20 points, everybody had it cooking. Everybody was getting some. And a guy who's been, let's say, a hot button issue this season, Mr. OG Anunoby, he had a pretty good game. 10 of 13 from the floor, 3 of 4 from three-point land. OG finishes with a career-high 25 points. Also add in 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and a block, just because it's the Raptors. And so steals and blocks are something that a lot of guys on this team do.
Yeah.
But OG, when you see him playing like that, what was the key for him tonight on the offensive end?
Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry getting him the ball in places where OG is going to be effective.
Yeah.
Cutting to the basket, or Kyle driving to the lane and finding OG wide open for a three. Right? It's just he makes the game easy for OG.
Yeah.
He makes the game easy for a lot of the Raptors.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
And then there's the matchup, right? You're not thinking OG is this offensive threat. So a lot of times you're putting on OG, you're putting on a smaller guy. Again, OG gets into the paint, where that's one place where OG can be effective offensively is in the paint, where he's 6'8", strong, big body, and can finish at the rim. So Kyle Lowry won, and the fact that when you're game planning against the Raptors, remember OG is the fifth option. Maybe you take Serge and Mark out of. Maybe OG moved up to being the fourth option today.
Yeah.
Right, but at that point, you're not getting the other team's best defender.
And the big thing here, I think, so Pascal shoots 14 for 21. OG shoots 8 for 13. Sorry, OG was 10 for 13. Rondé was 8 for 13. Kyle is 9 for 16. And then you have Fred at 5 for 13. But you have 4 of your 5 starters shooting at such a high clip. And the Raptors are the team that can turn on the defense. Whereas you look at Towns and D'Angelo, when they needed a stop, I mean, you had possessions where Freddie's looking at these dudes like disrespect, right? Like, he's looking at them, cooking them, burying shots, and just walking them out down the court like, really? Like, this is soft, right? Like,
that's basically it.
And
then on the other side,
oh, man.
You got Karl-Anthony Towns, who's 7 foot, backing down the 5'11"
Fred,
and Kyle,
and he can't do it.
and couldn't budge him.
It
makes no sense.
None. I posed a question on my on my Twitter feed because if you're paying attention online, there's Joel Embiid made some waves with some Twitter comments that he made earlier, and it just made me think, like, which big guy would I least want to have on my team? Towns or Embiid? I don't know. It's a toss-up, but it's just such a different.
Whichever one decides to put down their cell phone and stay off Twitter and get their ass in the gym.
But it's just such a different mindset from what you see on the Toronto Raptors, and I want to go through something for a second, right? Because let's look at this, okay? Karl-Anthony Towns is a number 1 overall pick.
Yep.
D'Angelo Russell is what, a 2 pick or 3?
I think D'Angelo was a 2, I believe.
So let's take a look at something here. We talk all the time about what the Toronto Raptors draft history is and where all these guys were drafted for the Toronto Raptors, or maybe more so, where these guys weren't drafted because they're undrafted dudes. And you have a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns who you're begging to like get in the post or take a charge or do any little thing that's like a little bit nitty gritty.
Yep.
Right? Meanwhile, you look at the Toronto Raptors squad and you have Kyle just taking charges left, right, and center. You have Rondé who comes in, and the only thing he wants to do is mix it up in the post, right? You have Pascal going hard, playing at both ends of the floor. Same thing with Freddie. Same thing with Boucher. McCaw's only out there to run up and down and play defense. Like, it's so crazy. And it made me look up the Minnesota Timberwolves because sometimes I think we forget. I shouldn't say we forget because we remember Masai's dope. Yeah. But I think we don't fully grasp just the job and how lucky we are as a Toronto Raptors fan base that we get to cheer for this team because there's so much talk. And hey, I've fallen victim to it over the years as well, talking about tank this, tank that, blah, blah, blah. And I look at a team like the Timberwolves who haven't been good since KG left. They made the playoffs once, and that was only because Jimmy Butler. And when Jimmy Butler got hurt, they almost blew it and didn't make the playoffs. It took them a last game play-in. But the point that I'm trying to make here is look at this Toronto Raptors team, how they play, how it's next man up, how it's all undrafted guys. And I'm just going to go back to 2005 and read you all of the lottery picks that have been on this Minnesota Timberwolves team compared to who are the lottery picks on the Raptors? Rondé?
Rondé.
So, okay.
Stanley
2005.
Rondé and Stanley Johnson.
2005, Rashad McCants went 14th, okay? 2006, Brandon Roy was traded to Portland for Randy Foye, who went 7th, okay? So 2007, Corey Brewer went 7th. 2008, OJ Mayo went 3rd, but was then traded to Memphis, right? And who did they trade for OJ Mayo in that one? Kevin Love, right? Kevin Love for OJ Mayo? That was the deal? Yes. That was the deal. Kevin Love for OJ Mayo. So, okay. Kevin Love is the one player that they've drafted that was really good. And what could they do with Kevin Love? They couldn't even make the playoffs. They traded him for Andrew Wiggins. And we know how that all played out, right? But at least they got Kevin Love was at least a good player that was dropping 20 and 10 for them. So that's one dude. Okay. 2009, that's the year they took Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn ahead of Steph Curry. Amazing, isn't it?
So they didn't mess up once, but they messed up twice.
2010 at number 4, they took Wesley Johnson. 2011 at number 2, they took Derek Williams, who's not even in the league anymore, right?
Nope.
2013, they took Trey Burke and traded him. 2014, they took Zach LaVine. We know they traded Zach LaVine as part of the Jimmy Butler deal. Then you get Towns in 2015, who's still there. And then you have Chris Dunn in 2016, who was also part of the Jimmy Butler deal. Markkanen, they also sent him the next year in the Jimmy Butler deal. And yeah, Jarrett Culver now. So all of those lottery picks, they still have Jarrett Culver, who, I mean, enough time hasn't passed yet for them to trade him, right? Because it's only been 1 year. And Towns. That's it. They tried to flip Jimmy Butler into something, but Butler was like, I'm getting out of here because Wiggins and Towns don't want the smoke. And I feel like Jimmy Butler's been proven right in that case. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you got to look at the Toronto Raptors team. And when you look at this Toronto Raptors roster, it is absolutely incredible when you talk about OG Anunoby being picked, 20th? Like, where was OG drafted?
Yeah, end of the first.
And it's just like, you look at these guys, OG was 23rd. Okay? So you have Pascal picked in the 20s. OG picked in the 20s. Freddie's undrafted. Terrence Davis, undrafted. Boucher, undrafted. Like, it's incredible to think about how much your structure of your organization matters in terms of getting the right players who want to put in work.
And this is the NBA, people. This is where stars are supposed to shine.
Yeah.
And this is what the Raptors are doing.
This is what the Raptors are doing with this next man up attitude. And it's just incredible that they think they can run up and down and just shoot threes, and that's going to be the way to get things done. And hey, the Raptors can trade buckets with you for a while, but eventually they're going to say, all right, we need to get some stops. Let's play defense. Let's get serious. And that's basically what happened in that third quarter. Jam done. Raptors play defense. TWolves don't. There's no next gear.
Yeah. And I think when you talk about draft picks, because I used to do this a lot with the Raptors back in the pre-Masai days. It's not only who they choose.
I just like how you clarified that.
Yeah, you have to the pre-Masai days. So it's not only who they choose, because like if you go through that list, and if you're ever a fan of college basketball, Rashad McCants was a beast. Like some of these players were if you would have had that pick, you probably would have at least considered them.
Yeah, like not everything is horrible. Not everything is taking Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn over Steph Curry.
Right, but that's the thing is, so they might have been decent college players at the time, but then you look at who was drafted after them.
Okay,
and that's where you tell the difference between guys who, like the average basketball fan would probably have picked some of those guys.
Yeah.
Right?
I see what you're
So that's
saying.
the difference between just being an avid fan or doing this professionally as your job, getting paid hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to build a team, and you can't make mistakes like that.
Well, the other part of it too is I think just doing your research more so than you're talking about guys who were in college and who
Yeah.
are really good players,
Yeah.
but there's more to it in terms of the kind of guys you're bringing into your
Exactly.
organization, right?
Exactly.
There's like the mentality that these guys have. What is their work ethic like? Are these guys coming in and are they willing to work and pay the price to eat dirt for a bit,
Yeah.
right?
Well, exactly. Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Whereas, like every year before the draft, there's 110 mock drafts that everybody who claims to be an expert, some people are just, couch potatoes, sports fans,
Yeah.
that put out their mock draft, right?
Yep.
And they just do it based off who is the hot guy in college right now, right? And it seems like a lot of these teams that continuously are in the lottery, continuous 10 years, 15 years, kind of just looked at the mock draft that they liked and just picked that player
Yeah.
without doing their own research and figuring out, is this the type of guy I want to invest? The second round pick still makes about $10 million over, the first 3 years.
Yeah, like I mean, if you do a good job in figuring out, okay, Norm Powell has something that I want. There's
Right.
something in Norm Powell that makes me think that maybe he can turn into something, and it's taking a while,
Yeah.
but that's all right. But we also know too the advantage of what Masai's done. You know, Pascal Siakam is someone that he followed from the Basketball Without Borders,
Right.
right? Like he's followed his glow up as a real youngster before actually taking him in the draft. There's so many things that go into it, but also the forset is Nick Nurse and just what Nick Nurse has done with these guys in terms of, I say this all the time, which I think is so important. And I don't mean this as a knock on Dwayne Casey because I think it's just a difference in style. Right. But Casey was a guy who I keep reminding us as we're going to watch Pascal Siakam this weekend be a starter in the NBA All-Star game, right? That just 3 years ago, Dwayne Casey wouldn't allow him to dribble.
Yeah.
Right? Kyle Lowry had to go beg Dwayne Casey to allow Siakam to dribble the ball up the floor. And to see where that has gone in just 3 years is incredible. And Matt Devlin said the stat during this game where Pascal Siakam has 27 games this season in which he's scored 20 or more points. And heading into this season, he had 27 games total where he scored 20 or more points. And obviously, 26 of those came last year alone.
Exactly.
So the rise of Pascal Siakam has been crazy. The stats to back that up are just crazy. As Pascal had his 13th 30-plus point game this season. Raps are 11-1 in the previous 12 games that he's done that. And to see the glow up of this guy and then compare it to someone who, like Kat, who was a high school All-American, he was getting gassed coming out of high school, going to Kentucky, babied at Kentucky by Coach Cal, now babied in the league, instead of Pascal, who's had to grind it out at where San Diego? No, where'd Pascal go?
New Mexico
State. I was about to say San Diego State, but I'm getting my wrong state
Yep.
colleges mixed up. Obviously, San Diego State is Kauai, but to see just the difference of how these guys come up and the grind, the difference of the grind and the mentality, and how these guys are coddled in terms of given stuff as opposed to earning every single inch. It's crazy to see. It's crazy to see. And I know that a lot of it does also come down to the environment that you're with. And Pascal was probably blessed to come into a situation where you had OGs like Kyle and DeMar who were already there, who were already established, who also busted their ass to get to where they're at. Whereas Towns comes in and it's just him, free reign until they get Jimmy, and he doesn't know how to act around Jimmy.
Exactly.
But it's really odd, isn't it? It's super odd.
But I think like you got to go back. Like when you go back, like let's stick with Minnesota and Kevin Garnett. And Kevin Garnett gave Sam Mitchell a lot of credit for
and Malik Sealy too,
right? For being those father figures and right because you got to remember these guys are coming into the league 18,
Kids.
19 years old.
You're a kid.
Given $10 million and they say, hey, be a man, right? So it takes a Sam Mitchell and guys like that to kind of take you under the wing and show you how to be a man, basically. A man, if not, or a pro, right? Where Siakam comes in and like you said, he has Kyle, he has DeMar. He had Serge,
Yeah.
right? Another African, that they have that kind of bond there going, right? So
Yeah.
just mentors,
Yeah. Totally.
right?
It's way different. It's just an interesting comparison, and that's all I was thinking about during the game while looking at how the careers have gone and how the franchise has gone in Minnesota and in Toronto. It's super interesting to see, but also on top of that, from Masai to Bobby Webster to Nick Nurse, this Raptors season, man, to say that you're at, I don't, and a lot of people try to throw out, oh, well, who have you played during this win streak? It's like, you're at 15 wins, right? Even if you played one of the teams or two of the teams twice, that's still almost half the league.
Yeah.
Right, that you've gone through. So who cares who you played? Like 15, that's just a legit win streak saying that you're hitting a wave right now and you're putting in mega work. So you have no choice but to respect what this Toronto Raptors team is doing and how they're doing it. Yeah. That's the thing. And there's talk today. One of the guys at work asked a question about is this team better than last year's team? Like, is that even a conversation? And to be honest, I hate that conversation because I feel like last year, Kawhi told us it was 82 practices, which tells me the wins and loss record means nothing, right? Which tells me he didn't care unless he's going up and seeing KD. So wins and losses mean nothing. But even if I remove last year from the equation, this year, I don't even care what the record is. I'm so much more impressed by how they're doing it as opposed to the actual wins and losses. Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, just how they pull it off. Like, someone's down, doesn't matter. Kyle's down, here comes Terrence Davis. Here, Matt Thomas doesn't even play, comes off the bench last game, puts up, a 20 spot? Yep. It's just, like, incredible how they're doing it. That's the thing that is so amazing to me this season that has made this so much fun to watch.
And I don't think you can separate the two. I don't think this season happens without last season.
Interesting,
right?
Okay.
Being an NBA champion, that's got to put something, you know what I mean? Some pride in you. Right, and then again coming off of that championship, Kawhi and Danny leave, and now everybody's doubting you as if your championship was only due to them, right? So I think Fred comes into the season and goes, but wait, I went up against Steph and I won that matchup, right? Siakam goes, hey, I'm still here, NBA's most improved player. Kyle's like, I've been here for 7 years, right? So they still have that almost that underdog. Yeah. I'm gonna fight. I still got lots to prove here, right? So that none of that happens without last year.
It's interesting, and like just again going back to where they are in their careers, Fred's still trying to get that bag. Pascal got his bag, but now he wants to prove that he's earned that bag. Yeah. Kyle is still trying to prove, no, I still got lots left in the tank. Right. Serge is on an expiring, so he's got something to prove. OG's going to come off his rookie deal, so he's got something to prove.
And even Masai, right? Masai, like he said, his goal was a championship. They don't win last year. We might not have Kyle, Mark, and Serge still on the team right now, right? He might be going in trying to improve and not giving them this second run at it, right? So a lot of things change if last year doesn't go the way it went.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can just say this team is better than last year because they're not what they are this year without the experience of last year.
And I still buy into the fact that watching all the starters, Kawhi included, but watching those guys last year, and you still have Kyle this year, but I think watching it last year, the mentality that those guys had in terms of we can win games and control games on the defensive end, we have that extra gear that we can turn it up. That I think is one of the biggest things to transfer over to this season. Offense is easy. You share the ball, you pass the ball, everyone can get involved, pass up good shots for better shots, and that's easy. Defense is where you'll win in this league, and I think that's pretty big. But let's get to some comments here. I know we were fired up after this game as the Raptors win again. Their 15th straight game. Again, 15 straight wins. I'm going to keep repeating that just because it sounds so ridiculous, right? And something that I wouldn't have thought this team would be capable of doing. But the Raptors win 137 to 126 in a game where You got your high scorer, Pascal Siakam with 34 points, Kyle Lowry with 27. Again, 4 of the 5 starters getting over 20 points. And let's get to our Ask on Blast segment where we just take your comments and questions as we do live on Twitter at Shell Alexander and on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. Glow Girl Smile checks in and says, I told you OG is fine. Need him for defense and get him going with easy buckets. We say this a lot, but how much do you see, not just with OG, but even with Pascal, get a couple buckets going to the cup, then step outside, and suddenly the 3-point shot happens to fall?
You just get a feel for the ball. The ball, after you've made a couple baskets, some easy basket, the ball just feels lighter in your hand.
It does.
Right? And then it puts confidence in you, and you just throw the shot up, and it just seems to just go in.
Yeah.
Right?
Logan cosigns and says, I told y'all OG was not to be traded. I mean, hey, OG's doing his thing. He says, my thoughts on the day, OG can be that guy to put us over the top. Also asks, is Fred a Team USA snub? I mean, Team USA, no, I don't think Fred VanVleet is a Team USA snub. It's when Zion's not on the team, Ja Morant's not on that list, and neither is Trae Young.
Yep.
So, no, to answer your question, but still a good question either way. We take your comments and questions, right?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Juha on Instagram says, Cat is more sensitive than KD's burner accounts. There's a lot of Cat slander in here.
Yeah.
Omen says, Cat can't even post up on Rondé or OG. Wow.
He couldn't post on Kyle and Fred.
It's true. Dante, I think this is Dante. Cat wipes spaghetti sauce off D'Lo's bottom lips with his hands. What? I don't even know what that means. I mean, I know what that means, but that was one that normally I should have read before in my head before reading out loud. But another comment, kudos to Hustle Jefferson for stepping up as center and playing his ass off. Rondé, man. Rondé is just a solid vet. He's been such a good and underrated pickup by Masai. Yeah. And it took a while for him to get into the rotation, but now that he's gotten in, he's proven to be so valuable to this team, no?
And it's just a team like they share the ball, right? And I think they appreciate the hustle. They appreciate the second chances, the tip balls, the defense, and they both Fred and Kyle give Rondé the ball, and at one point I was like, you don't want to. He's had a lot of shots today. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And and even though he was, he missed a couple layups inside, but he was getting to the line. But it's just like they rewarded him for his hustle, right? And you know what they always used to say, like you got to let your big man that is rebounding and blocking shots, you got to reward him on the other end. But Rondé is not exactly a big like a center like that, but they still appreciate his hard work and hustle, especially going up against a 7-foot cat.
Yeah, and
they gave him the ball, and he didn't disappoint with it. Just did 20 points, right? So
there's so much Karl-Anthony Towns slander. I'm trying to find comments that are not just straight dissing Karl-Anthony Towns, but it's like a full line of who has the best one-liners. I see Cat asks to be the little spoon. Cat can't dominate a bowl or rice. Like, there's just so much random, there's so much random Karl-Anthony Towns slander in this chat. Let me see what else. I'm going to bounce back to Twitter here and see. Blackhawk says, talk about next man up. Raptors on. JC says, 15, baby. Hell yes. This team is so much fun to watch. Kron says, big boy win. I don't even care. They just torched the Clippers and Kawhi. That's in reference to what you were saying in terms of the TWolves. And you could see how that could happen, right? Because the way that they offensively started tonight against the Raptors, it was just the Raptors matched their offense. But if you come out slow in this game, while they were cooking like they were in the first quarter, you could get one out of the gym pretty easy against this team, no?
Yeah. And I think, if you look at the lineup that they started, Jordan McLaughlin, undrafted guy, right? So they had a lot of guys playing that were finally getting a chance in the NBA,
Yeah.
and had something to prove and wanted to prove something, right? So
Yep.
so they almost started a lineup like imagine the Raptors a couple years ago,
Yeah.
right? Before the championships, before the playoffs, with with the bench mob. They almost started like a bench mob type of lineup, and guys that Malik Beasley coming out of Denver where he was riding the bench finally got some good playing time, and they had something to prove and show that they could ball.
Totally true. Totally true. More comments here on Instagram. Diversified Youth says, our backcourt is shocking the world right now. For those who haven't hooped, two small guards are not supposed to dominate. I totally agree with that. I'm stunned. I still go back to the first game of the season when they announced, or I think it was right before the first game of the season where they announced their starting lineup. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is just a matchup thing.
Yeah.
Are they going to go with this for the whole year? Is he going to shuffle it? And no, every time that they've been together, everyone's been healthy. This is the starting lineup we've seen. And I'm going to be honest, I've been stunned that it's worked. Do I believe that it will work still in the playoffs? I don't know. I want to see it work in the playoffs.
Definitely.
But 4 games in? 54 games in. It's a success, and that small backcourt is playing large.
Yes, very large.
How do you see this playing out? Or don't do that. What has been the key to their success to you so far this season? Why has it worked? To you, in your opinion.
I think the other team, the way the league is set up, where every team kind of has their big two or big three, it leaves a fourth or fifth guy that you don't really have to guard.
Okay.
And if you watch a lot of the games, Kyle and Fred kind of take turns guarding that guy who doesn't get the ball.
For sure.
Right? So, it's not like they're going up against, I'll put out Portland, for example, where they're going at Dame and CJ mano a mano, right? Kyle or one of them would switch off and guard
Simeons or what's Simons?
Yeah.
What's that guy's name?
Or you're right, or when they had Bazemore or something, what I mean?
Yeah.
So the way they play defense and kind of switch up her zone and switch all the time, it kind of masks their deficiencies in size.
Yeah. I also think too they've done such a great job of using it to their advantage in terms of pushing the pace.
Yeah.
Now you have an extra ball handler who can get the ball out and go. And they're playing with the same mentality in terms of continue to push the ball, continue to push the pace, and they're going downhill.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's been the key. So when you have 2 point guards, both playing like that, most teams don't have the defenders to match up with that.
Right. And let me give Kyle and Fred some credit.
A lot of credit.
Right? So I'm not saying that they're just hiding them and they're not playing defense at all, but in that they're guarding, usually they'll say like Kyle will guard like the small forward or power forward or whoever is less likely to get the ball. In the post, he's still fighting.
Yeah. And I think it throws off the other team.
Exactly.
Because they think, okay, we can post this guy up. And now they're doing something unorthodox with their offense, trying to play some perceived mismatch.
Exactly.
Right? Like, oh, we can post up Hazonia on Kyle Lowry. And it's like, no, you can't.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And then that guy gets the ball and goes, oh, I got a small guy on me, and drives, and then the whistle blows, offensive foul, charge, ball's going the other way 9 times out of 10.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. More slander of Karl-Anthony Towns. Alex says, Cat asks for a fork and spoon at sushi bars. Yo, what is going on right now?
Cat goes to Sears for couple of shoots with D'Lo.
Yo, what is happening right now, man? A lot of talk in the chat about Nick Nurse, Coach of the Year. Are you buying that Nick Nurse buzz for Coach of the Year this season?
I think if things continue to play out the way they are, and the Raptors still have a top 3, top 4 record when the season's done, he's got to get it.
I agree. I totally agree. You add in the fact that you lose Kawhi Leonard, you lose Danny Green, another vet, but then on top of that, all of the injuries that you've had to starters, and the different starting lineups you've had to put out there, all the undrafted players you'd have to put out there. And it's not like the East is way weaker than the West or anything like that. The East is legit. And you're telling me you're going to finish second or third in that Eastern Conference? That's definitely coach of the year. And a lot of people agree. Gordon says the best coach in the NBA, Nick Nurse. Mike says Nick Nurse is definitely the coach of the year.
Yeah.
Strong Delusion says Nick Nurse is a MacGyver coach.
Yeah. And I think where in years past you would have thought that this team in Toronto doesn't get the buzz. They've been on ESPN a couple times now. They got the Christmas game. You remember that win streak with when Kyle and Serge went out early, and they had that winning streak, and held Dame to 9 points, and they beat the Lakers
and
and
like 12 or something.
Right, so that brought them some notoriety. Now he's coaching in the All-Star game. Now they got this win streak going. So he's in the spotlight now, right?
Totally. It's great to see Nick Nurse getting some love, right? Because a lot of the talk about what happened last year, if you really watch the team, you could tell the main difference is that they were doing a lot of things differently than they were before. And so you could tell that, yes, as a coach who's making a difference, but also just hearing enough of the stories about Kawhi Leonard talking about Nick Nurse, you knew that Nick Nurse was doing a coaching job. Yeah. But from outer sources, right, they might have thought, okay, well, he was the assistant and they got Kawhi. That's why they're doing such a good job.
Right.
But if you really pay attention and you think of the defenses that my guy just throws out randomly, being able just to know how to pull the right strings, I always go back to the Terrence Davis game where he benched him the night before, then started him. Every time you think you know what he's going to do, like I might have thought, oh, is Boucher going to start tonight? Yeah. No. I'm going to start Rondé. Leave Boucher in the same spot. Like he plays such great Jedi mind tricks with the dudes to like keep them honest, keep them developing at the right pace. Yeah. Keep Boucher hungry. Don't give him the start. Yeah. Nah, keep him hungry. Make him like he might think, oh, you're going to get mega minutes tonight. Nah, bro. You still got to keep working. Yeah. And I like that. I appreciate that fact. And I think that's been so much of the key this season as well, because you're dealing with a lot of young cats in the sense that, look, Terrence Davis didn't really play that well tonight, and that's okay. That's all right. You still have your lead dogs. And that's been the beauty of watching this Toronto Raptors team, because they get it done a different way, night in, night out. And that's been the key. And, I mean, to go into the All-Star break, you have one more game against the Brooklyn Nets, who I think coming off that last loss, Brooklyn, it'll be an interesting one. I doubt Kyrie. I'm guessing Kyrie's probably not going to play because it's the first game until the break.
You might as well give him the extended break.
Exactly. But Karis LeVert came out. I bet you Nick Nurse is cooking up something different right away. Like, there's no chance Karis LeVert is going for 37 again. No. Like, you just see the Raps coming up with some type of defensive mindset to, like, slow him down, that the same thing's not going to happen twice. I'd be stunned.
Yep.
And if you're talking about going into the break on a 16-game win streak, man.
And then hopefully coming back with if not a full squad, a fuller squad.
Because Norm's got to be on the mend. Yep. We already know their plan was to hold out Marc Gasol until after the break anyways. So there's a lot going on. People also asking about the U.S. media, and this is where I'll stress to you guys, okay? Have an understanding that the majority of the U.S. media does not watch the Raptors. Yeah. So take what they say with a grain of salt.
Exactly.
Right? Like, most of them don't watch Raptors games. And I get it. I understand it. Because I'll ask all of us, how many people watching this pod, how many non-Raptor games do you watch regularly? Like, if we picked some, like, let's say the Denver Nuggets. Yeah. Right? Denver's a top team in the West. But how many Denver Nuggets games are y'all checking for that you could give an actual breakdown of why the Denver Nuggets are good? Yeah. So now turn that around and now understand why, there's this whole debate, and now there's going to be a rush. You see Perk on the wave. Yep. You see all these U.S. media guys now, they're going to try to be the first ones to be like, oh yeah, the Raps. Don't sleep on the Raptors. Don't sleep on the Raptors. And it's like, all y'all slept on the Raptors.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, again, I was sitting here saying 5 to 8. That's where I think they're going to come in. And so clearly I was sleeping on the Raptors. And I mean, I'm okay with being wrong, because they are putting in work. How enjoyable
And you
is this?
gotta also realize the narrative, right? Like talking about the Raptors on ESPN is not getting you ratings in the U.S., right?
Also
So
true.
they have to pander to the LAs and the New Yorks and the those Golden States and those teams, the Miamis, Philadelphia, Boston, right? That's because that's who's watching their show,
Totally.
right?
Totally agree. This has been such a fun show. This has been such a fun ride because the way that the Raps are doing it has been so much fun. We got so many people writing in. Kat has a sleepover to celebrate D'Lo coming to town. Embiid versus Cat on Raptors discussion. Ugh. DVAT is not happy with our discussion about Cat versus Embiid. That's very funny. It's just been so much fun. There's so much going on. I think that the biggest thing to me going forward for the rest of this season is, can this team just get healthy?
Yeah.
I don't care what the record is. I mean, you'd want to finish in second because, as mentioned, you come in third, and who knows what that first round matchup could be? Could Philly figure it out? Do you want to mess up with the Sixers? Do you want the Celtics? So the second seed is really important. So you want to keep winning all
Yeah.
these games. That's why this win streak is so important, because you hope to be healthy by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And 54 games in, you're at the best record in franchise history. Is this Toronto Raptors team this year?
I mean, they're making a believer out of me, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think they would finish as low as you thought, but to think with all of these injuries for them to still be in second and pulling away,
Yeah.
right? Right? Because I mean, 2 weeks ago, it was like you could lose and legitly fall from second to sixth, right?
Yeah.
Now there's some games in between, like they're up. I think it's 2.5 or 3 games on the third place team.
Yeah.
Right, and they're doing that amongst all of these injuries, countless. Now Surge was out,
And I mean, it's crazy because, to be honest, part of the reason why I thought they'd finish 5-8 was because I thought injuries would come. Like, you look at the lineup and you think Marc Gasol's really old; he's gonna miss a chunk. Kyle always misses a chunk. Fred hasn't been healthy for a full season. Norm always gets hurt. OG was hurt all last year. Pascal's first season being the man. Like, there are so many things. Norm always gets hurt. There's so many things where I thought, okay, well, injuries are going to come, and I don't think they'll be able to handle the injuries. Yeah. That was one of the main reasons why I was saying 5-8. Yeah. And instead, it's like the injuries have almost made them better than they would have been, because now you found all these, like, blue chip prospects. Rondé, Matt Thomas can give you minutes when needed. Boucher can give you minutes when needed. Obviously, your favorite Raptor, Terrence Davis, can give you minutes when needed. Fred has emerged as a starting point guard in this. The injuries have almost helped them. And I know that sounds weird, but that's kind of how this season's played out, no?
Yeah. And I think, you know what, I want to we were talking about Coach of the Year, and I think Masai needs to get Executive of the Year. And I know he's probably not going to win it, because they usually give it to, like, that GM that makes that trade, like, the Lakers GM.
Did Masai even win it last year?
I don't think he did.
I don't think he did either.
I think Milwaukee took everything.
Yeah, I think you're right. Which also doesn't make sense, because if Masai can't win it last year when somehow he got Kawhi Leonard, right? It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
So I think I think he gets credit for first for bringing in Terrence Davis, Matt Thomas, Ronnie Hollis Jefferson, right? But none of those are really big names that are going to say, like, oh, look what Masai did this year. But even the fact to just first, you're instilling this culture to where a guy like a Boucher and a Matt Thomas and Terrence Davis can thrive in this culture, right?
Yeah.
And then the fact that you didn't trade away your vets. Right, a lot of other GMs, Kyle would have been gone, Mark would have been gone, Serge would have been gone, right, for picks.
Totally true.
They would have tore it up, right? But the fact that he stuck with it, I think he deserves a lot of credit for that.
I agree with that for sure. I think this has been so much fun, and I love the fact that the mentality's kind of been, these guys have earned it. These guys have earned this run, a chance to defend their NBA championship, and I've enjoyed this regular season so much, And there is a reminder that the playoffs are a different beast.
Yep.
The playoffs are a different animal. And my mentality is I'm going to enjoy this regular season for what it is. When the playoffs come, it's a different season. It's a different beast altogether. Let's go. But you feel a hell of a lot more confident going into the playoffs than I would have thought they would have been going into the playoffs at the start of the year.
Definitely.
Right?
And I think it just shows that no matter who they play, they can switch up styles. Mm-hmm. If it's a defensive grind-out game, there's not too many teams that are better defensively than Toronto. If it's a run and gun game, we just seen them run and gun with. I mean, Minnesota's not a big team, but they can still play that run and gun style. You know what I mean? I think the different styles that they can play, along with the fact that I know we were complaining about, they made a couple games that should have been blowouts. They made them close.
Yeah.
If you play the whole year, like when you watch Milwaukee, you're not going into the playoffs winning every game by 24 points.
No, of
right?
course not.
Can you grind out those games when it matters? And
Totally
Milwaukee
agree.
doesn't really have too many games under their belt this year where they've even had to experience that, right?
It's true.
So the Raptors, even playing the Atlantas and the Orlandos and the Minnesotas, where games were close and you had to fight to get those leads and get those wins, all of that is going to play into the Raptors' hand come playoff time.
Totally agree. Here's maybe the last comment we'll read here. Alex says, "Who's better, Cat or Tony Battie?" That's dirty. You're not actually thinking about that. Come on, man. That's dirty biz. Shouts to Tony Battie, though. Because Tony Battie, real ball heads will remember Tony Battie. And that's a disrespect to Cat, but that made me laugh.
I'm just saying, Tony Battie would have dunked on Fred. Right? If Fred VanVleet ever tried to guard Tony Battie in the post, he's getting posterized.
I see who's better, Cat or JaVale McGee. Honestly, go through the Instagram feed. There's so much jokes here. People just dissing Cat. It's incredible. So much fun, man. I had so much fun on this podcast reading all these comments. You guys have been jokes. This has been great as we continue to enjoy the best win streak in franchise history, as your Toronto Raptors have now won 15 games in a row after a 137-126 win over the Minnesota Timberwolves. We got one more game before the All-Star break. Let the people know where they can find you, where they can hit you up, where they can give you more people to rate as being better than than Karl-Anthony Towns.
Oh, man, peoples, again, appreciate all the love. Appreciate you guys showing up every night. Appreciate all the people that hollered at me during the week. You can reach me personally at simply_just_Q. That's on Twitter and Instagram. Or, again, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at DDS Caps. Also, check out DDSCaps.com. We still got some stuff on for sale. Hopefully this snow is done soon. We can bring some new hats and some stuff out for the spring and summertime.
I got Gordon checking in and says, "Hey bro, circle your calendar for Raptors and the Bucks in TO. Hopefully we are at 18 wins in a row come that game." Woo-wee! Lots going on.
I might have to go to that game if I can get some tickets.
Raps fans are hype right now, and I don't blame you. Again, Raptors win their 15th straight game, 137-126 over the Minnesota Timberwolves. Pascal Siakam getting spicy with 34 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. Just cuz. Your man's Kyle Lowry back in the lineup again, 27 points, 11 assists. OG, a career high, 25 points, 12 rebounds for OG Anunoby, and no Serge, no problem. Rondae steps up with 21 points. Massive win for the Toronto Raptors. Maybe a little humble pie for the TWolves in their first game with D'Angelo Russell, as he finishes with 22, Towns finishes with 23, and it's not nearly enough against the Toronto Raptors, who just continue to be a juggernaut. One more game before the All-Star break, but the Toronto Raptors currently sit with their best record after 54 games in franchise history at 40-14. What a time to be alive. If you're a Toronto Raptors fan. 15 straight wins. Again, my name is Sheldon Alexander. Thank you guys for tuning in. Whether you do live on Twitter for the only live and interactive Toronto Raptors interactive post-game show on Twitter at Shell Alexander. Thank you guys for tuning in and taking your comments and questions there. Same thing goes for Instagram at Sheldon Alexander on Instagram. And of course, please support the pod. Like and subscribe. Rate us on iTunes. Like, rate, all that fun stuff on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Play, YouTube, all those places. Tell your friends. Get them to jump on the wave because this is the Wrap It Up podcast and we doing big things here as the Toronto Raptors continue their march towards repeating as NBA champions. See you guys next game on Wednesday because, as I always say, I used to pray for times like this to rhyme like this. This is the Wrap It Up on Blast Raps post-game show, as always, unpolished and unapologetic. Until next time, see ya.
On blast.